Hi. So, today I think the Lord really showed me the importance of keeping your heart open. So, it was like my heart just like longed to talk to people and to meet people, to talk to them. And so, like, I had a bunch of divine appointments all day, and I was just like talking to people all day. And I remember just like God telling me to go to Pasadena, and then I saw this restaurant and it was like imprinted in my mind, and like I could even sense like my heart, like in the morning when I was waking up I felt like tension in my heart, and I realized it was because I felt condemned about like yesterday and like ministering to this young man, and then his stepmom was like calling him constantly, and I was like feeling like, oh my gosh, I was feeling so tense. And I also prayed for a guy on the bus who was like demonically oppressed. And so I think that my heart was just like freaking out a little bit about the experience, and I was like, god, this is what I get for interacting with people, this is what I get for helping people. Like my heart was just like feeling the fear, right? So this morning I like went out, I was like, no, I have to, like one of the things that the enemy will do when you encounter like guilt or condemnation, or you encounter like a bad experience in relationships, is that he will want to isolate you and make you like just be in that hole of like despair, and that hole of loneliness, and that hole of like, oh, I'm not gonna put myself out there, I'm not gonna kind of put like talk to people or talk to strangers, or like take the risk of rejection, or you know um like you're like, oh, I don't want people to judge me because I've been judged. But the thing is, your heart needs daily exercise. Your heart needs daily exercise. So the Lord led me to this restaurant, and I started talking to the owner, and she wasn't religious or anything, but then I was like telling her like, I see you playing piano, and she's like, oh, I play piano. She's like, you saw a vision of me? I was like, yeah. And I was telling her like, I see you performing and sing, keep trying, like my job and my purpose in life is really to open people's hearts. And so yeah, I get rejected, I get judged because of it, or I get ignored, but that's not the point. Like, the point is that I keep my heart open no matter how people treat me. That's our job as humans, that love is the purpose of our lives, like, and not that my worth is dependent on whether people open up or not, but like I want to stay open. I want to be open. So I go to Monrovia, and like of course like I get this boba drink, and it's not what I want, right? So of course I'm like, "Hey, is it okay if I switch it?" And after like much debate, he like gave in. He's like, "Okay, I'll let you switch it." And so even that act of like, you know what, I don't like what I got, and asking to switch it, that is also putting your heart out there, because guess what? Some people might say, "Hey, well, I don't you're not allowed to switch it." But the thing is, like, it's just exercising your heart and not fearing men's opinion of you. Like, and not being afraid of being inconvenienced, or being too much. It's just speaking up, and like living in courage, living in love versus fear. And so I had to combat that all day, really, because I was really annoyed and frustrated that everything closed down. And I was like, God, and so I get to this bus stop, and then immediately I see a guy open up his Bible, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, are you Christian?" So we start talking, and I'm like telling him I'm a prophet, and he starts to debate with me. I'm like, "God, this is not what I want right now." But I still keep my heart open, and then I get on another bus, and I start talking to the driver, and like we're talking, and he's like, "You know what? A lot of people, once they get bitten, like they get bitten by dogs, they stop opening their heart, and they stop talking to people. They stop, you know, risking, because you get hurt, you get judged or rejected." But so like kid you not. So I got to this train station, and then God's like, ask people for rides. And I'm like, oh, my heart is just like, really? So I asked like about 5 people, and they're all guys, and they're strangers. Yeah. So I asked all of them like for rides, and all of them are like, no, because of the virus, like people are very closed off, and they're living in fear. So like by exercising my faith and saying, you know what, I'm gonna put myself out there so that I can in questioning, like in asking them to open their hearts and say, hey, look, like, are you willing to say yes? And so all of them said no. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, God, I am so tired. I've like put my heart out there and I've just like stepping out on faith, Lord. And someone comes back, right? He drops off his truck at work and then he comes back to get me and he drives me up the street. And it turns out, of course, he's a divine appointment. He's Catholic. And many times in our faith, God will call us to things that are out of our comfort zone, and our response can be no or yes. And God's not going to judge you. Yes, God, I'm going to ask for help. Yes, God, I'm going to give. Or yes, God, I'm going to help this stranger. Or yes, God, I'm going to give to this homeless person. At one, and it's hard because sometimes like they're like, oh, they don't know who you are and they don't know what to expect of you. But little do they know that I am, and then I'm liable. And I'm like, those are all very legit concerns. But at one point, like I said again, in your faith, that was suitable. And I'm like, God, why am I here? But I opened my heart and I said yes to you, God. And I get out Target and then like I call Uber and I get in the car and it's this Catholic guy. Again, another lost sheep. So I'm talking to him about the virus because at one point, the guy that I got a ride from on Uber, he was not Christian, like, and he was like just very open, and like I could tell the posture of his heart, like he was not afraid of the virus. So we were talking, and then I gave him my website, and then later on, I saw this guy like skateboarding to he had Popeyes takeout, and I was like, oh, okay, Popeyes. I don't know what I want. I don't know what my heart wants, right? So this girl walks in with like a coupon and I was like, oh my gosh, there are coupons, right? So I look it up. I'm like, oh my gosh, God, like that is such a good deal, right? So I get it. And I was like, oh, I want to add on a drink. And he's like, you can have it for free. And my heart was like, oh my gosh. And I just yelled like, I love you. And like, I don't know, just doing something so small for me, like it just really touched my heart because of the not telling him what God was saying, and all of a sudden like his stepmom was calling, like, and I suddenly felt this fear, like, oh my gosh, like he's in trouble because of me, and I know that was like the devil trying to guilt trip me. But like when I woke up with this, like, you can choose to keep saying yes to God, or you can choose to say no and like allow your heart to just shrivel up in fear and like hey, blah blah blah. But like opening your heart up to strangers and like putting yourself out there, like taking that risk. Like I got rejected by so many people today, like in terms of like God was telling me like ask people for rides. Like I'm telling you that these are strangers that I'm asking for rides, and they can have the opportunity to be blessed by a prophet for me to pray over them. But it just depends who's gonna say yes, who's gonna be blessed, right? And yeah, it was just like I talked to like a bunch of people today, and I noticed as the more I talk to people, the more I open my heart and just like shared, feel guilty, like I talked about in the other video. You shrivel up and you don't open up and you feel like you're not allowed to have fun. It's like you feel less than, right? And so God, Heavenly Father, I just pray right now that you just break open people's hearts, the ones that have like just closed up their hearts because of hurt, and that they're afraid to show affection, they're afraid to show love to people, they're afraid to give or to receive or to ask for help of yourself, like loving people, like opening up to them. Like it's like, yeah, it's like sometimes you're like, oh, how come people don't love me? It's like a relationship is a two-way street, and it's like sometimes we're not opening our hearts to, but like by the grace of God, right? And I just want to share too, like my ability to talk to for love, and my heart longs for connection. So my heart is going to put myself out there because like I long to have communication with people. And so I don't like force myself, because I don't want people to think like, hey, like to see people open up as well. So, anyways, thanks for watching. To give a gift or a donation to this ministry, I thank you for all of your support, all of your prayers, and I thank you for like impacting the nations and just sharing Jesus with people through me. Like it's such an honor to do that, and thank you for all of your comments and your support. God bless you. Bye.